Superman and Lois Season 3 is now officially on the CW. It's finally begun, and this is one of the kind of remnants of the Arrowverse still left over, even though it's technically not part of the Arrowverse anymore. Superman and Lois, definitely one of the highlights of the superhero DC shows on the CW. This show is so good. Seasons 1 and 2, both I really heavily enjoyed. But just when it comes to a lot of TV right now with like new weekly episodes, except for obviously Ted Lasso, because that show's amazing. I've kind of been lacking with like watching stuff when it first comes out. So Superman and Lois, of course, new episodes come out on Tuesday nights alongside Gotham Knights. And I didn't watch it until tonight, which is Friday night. Which is also just because I'm busy and I got a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, so I just watched it for the first time. I still haven't seen Gotham Knights yet. When I do, maybe I'll make a video on that as well. But I just want to make a video about Superman and Lois Season 3 because I watched this premiere episode and I just loved it so much. Everything we have here with Superman and Lois Season 3 so far is amazing. I don't know why I ever doubt this show, because for some reason going to this, I was like, okay, Superman and Lois is back, but it's always good. I don't know why I doubt it. And this Season 3 premiere was just amazing. Now, the real reason I'm making this video, because if it was just an episode review and breakdown, I wouldn't be doing this since it's days later. But we also do have our first official look at Michael Cudlitz as Lex Luthor in this season. So I figured, tack it on, in this video. Make a video about this first look at Lex Luthor, and then we'll also review the episode as well. So if you haven't seen the episode of Superman and Lois Season 3 yet, don't worry. I'll give you a spoiler warning when we get to that point. But first, let's just talk about Lex Luthor. So we got the casting news a couple weeks ago, or like a month or two ago, that Michael Cudlitz was going to be playing Lex Luthor in Superman and Lois Season 3. And now here we have our first official look at the character, which, he does look kind of like a menacing character. He definitely does look like he could be a villain. But to me, he just doesn't look like Lex Luthor. Like, just because he's bald doesn't mean he's Lex Luthor. I am not at all a fan of these Lex Luthors with facial hair and beards, because so far that has been the pattern with Lex Luthor on TV, other than Michael Rosenbaum as Lex Luthor on Smallville, which is just still the pinnacle of perfection Lex Luthor right there. But it all started with John Cryer as Lex Luthor on Supergirl. He had the beard. I wasn't a fan of it then. I grew to like it just because I liked his version of the character. Then we got recently the Lex Luthor on Titans, who only lasted like an episode, but still, he was there and he had the big bushy beard. And now we have here Michael Cudlitz as Lex Luthor on Superman and Lois Season 3, and he's got the beard. And I'm just, like I said, I'm just not a fan of it. It doesn't look right. I do appreciate, though, the fact that at least this time the beard is red, because, if you don't know the story, originally Lex Luthor, before he was bald, he was a redhead. So I do at least like that is a bit comics accurate, but I just am not a fan of Lex Luthor with a beard. You can definitely let me know your own opinion and thoughts on it in the comments below. But for now, let's talk about Superman and Lois Season 3. So this is the spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the premiere episode yet, then go check it out on the CW app. But I really enjoyed it. And one of my favorite moments was the beginning of the episode when Clark is training Jordan in the new Fortress of Solitude, and we just get some flashes of these comics accurate classic Superman villains. So of course Clark is like whipping out the holograms, and you get to see Titano, you get to see Mecha Man, and we actually get to see a little brief glimpse of Jordan fighting a hologram of Atomic Skull, which was awesome to see. That was just really great. It's something I didn't at all expect to be seeing here. So it was really awesome when we got to get that moment. But kind of the big thing in this episode is that Lois and Clark, they're in a really good spot in their relationship right now. Their sons, they just turned 16, and then them as a couple, they're going really well together. And we got the whole possible pregnancy thing, which we'll talk about in a second. But when it comes to Lois, she of course is also doing her investigation on Bruno Mannheim and his connection to this Earth's version of John Henry Irons, which brings us to his sister, which I believe is played by Leo's mother from Lab Rats, which great callback right there. I grew up watching Lab Rat, such a good show. I think this is an interesting storyline. I like where this is going. There's some theories going around that possibly this version of John Henry Irons is maybe not even dead, especially considering what happened to Atomic Man in this episode. But I like what's being set up here. I really enjoyed that. But going back to the whole Lois pregnancy thing, I like this as well because this, when we first kind of heard about that in the trailers and what we had just heard and read about Superman Lois season 3 with Lois possibly being pregnant, I was kind of like, I mean, they already have the two 16-year-old sons. Do we really need another child, especially a baby? Like, do we have time and room to handle that on top of everything else that's going on? But I mean, this episode just did such a good job of showing me why I want her to be pregnant, seeing how much it means to them, especially with them having the Jordan and Jonathan's 16th birthday and doing the photos of, them as children and all that stuff, and them just being like, oh man, I miss being a mother, I miss having little kids running around the house. Like, personally, me in real life, I can't wait to be a father. Like, that's something I'm really excited for. And so to see stuff like that, it just gets me really excited. But then at the end of the episode, we find out, at least supposedly, she's not pregnant, which was actually really disappointing to me. So apparently she has all these symptoms. So we got to figure out what is actually going on with Lois. Is she dying or something? We don't know, but we'll find out. And speaking of some possible baby making, I mean, they didn't actually, but I mean, the action that would lead to that, Kyle and Chrissy, not something I expected, but honestly, I kind of like it. Kyle is an interesting character. The first season I kind of hated him, but by the end I really grew to enjoy that character. Season 2 I loved him. I fell in love with this character. I really felt bad for him, and now season 3, of course, the divorce is kind of being finalized with him and Lana, and so he's in a rough spot. He really doesn't have much going on with him, and Chrissy is in a similar spot as well. So I think it makes sense that they would get together, and obviously in this episode it's implied that it's just a one night stand. It's just a one-time hookup, but I feel like it couldn't be just a throwaway thing. Like, they got to be setting up something here, and I feel like it just makes sense for these two to get together, and I actually really like it. Now, we do have kind of the big, I guess, controversy, but also not really, but just the big change for Superman and Lois season 3 is, of course, the recasting of the actor for Jonathan. We have a new actor in the role here this season, and I have to say that, obviously it was noticeable, but it wasn't, like, super distracting. Like, it didn't feel that weird. And I adjusted pretty quickly. I like this new actor. I think he does a good job in the role. Of course, I miss Jordan Elsass, however you pronounce his name. But I like this new guy as well. So we'll see how it plays out and pans out throughout the rest of the season. But as for the actual kind of Superman side of things, of course, we do get the rematch between Superman and Atomic Man, who, of course, was the villain that appeared in season 1 during the flashback episode, which is still to this day my favorite episode of Superman and Lois. That one was just so good. So it's great to see this character come back, although he does die at the end of this episode at the hands of Onomatopoeia, who is in the comics mainly a Green Arrow villain and also sometimes Batman villain as well. But Onomatopoeia is going to be playing a role in this season, and they just look so scary and so creepy, and I love it. Like, this character just looks so cool. I don't really know much about them, but Onomatopoeia just looks really awesome, and I'm really excited to see what type of role they play in this season. But we do get the introduction to Bruno Mannheim at the very final scene of this episode when we find out, well, not find out, but we get to see Atomic Man actually be brought back to life and revived. That, again, connects back to the whole theory that maybe this Earth's John Henry Irons is, or maybe was dead, but now is alive again. Who knows? I mean, we just get a few lines of dialogue from Bruno Mannheim here, but he definitely seems to have a nice menacing presence, a nice villainous presence. So I really enjoy that. I'm excited to see what kind of villainous plans he has throughout Superman and Lois season 3. But anyways, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What did you think about Superman and Lois season 3, episode 1, the premiere of the season, as well as also our first look at Lex Luthor in this show as well. Also, these posters, man, this goes hard. Like, these are some great looking posters. But anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video and hit the subscribe button so I keep you up to date on everything that goes on in the DC life.